All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott, formerly of Rankin Technical College. And on my YouTube channel, JPS-Jeff Teaches Programming, I've been trying to teach people Python. I've got between 70 and 80 videos out there so far, and we're getting into the world of GUI, graphical user interface programming. So I've been using TKinter to rewrite some of the programs I'd created earlier, but rewrite those using or making them graphical. Now, I said I was going to continue this in the lecture that I was doing. Unfortunately, I accidentally lost power. So here's where the problem was. Inside of Start Game Selection window, there's this for loop, which I did not explain. All right, so we've got for widget in root.winfo_children. What that does is it gets basically a listing of all the widgets, the child widgets that are currently either packed or placed within, in this case, within a main window. All right, and then the widget.pack_forget, that's called on each widget in this for loop, and what it does basically is it hides them from view. It doesn't delete the widgets, it just removes them from the layout, the visibility of them in the layout. They're in memory and they can be shown again by doing a widget pack. And the problem that I was having was I was trying to bring them up in here. Notice I had the, well, let's see. I had the pack all over the place except where I needed it. And that was inside of the start the game. Provide feedback to the user, where we set up this feedback right here, this label, I didn't pack. And where we set up the guess, I didn't pack. So I've added that. And the other thing that I did was I made the window bigger. It was 250 by 250. I doubled it to 500 by 500. Why did I do that? Let's run it so we can see why. All right, so there it is. And as it says, choose your game option. I'm going to play all three games one at a time. I can either enter a number between 1 and 10, or between 1 and 100, or between 1 and 1,000. Let's first try 1 and 10. Notice, enter a guess between 1 and 10. So I'll say 5. Submit the guess. It was too low. Try again. 8. That was too low. Let's try 10. That was correct, and it took me 3 guesses. Play another game? Yes. Now we'll try between 1 and 100. So I'll put a 50 in there. That's too high, so let's try 25. That's too high. Let's try 12. That's too low. Let's try 18. That's too high. So I know it's between 12 and 18, really between 13 and 17. So let's try 15. There it is. Took 5 guesses. We'll play it one more time between 1 and 1,000, 500. So notice it says that's too high. So I've knocked out 501 possibilities. It has to be a number between 1 and 499 because 500 was too high. So let's try 250. And that's too high. So in 2 guesses, I've removed 75% of the numbers that are possible. All right, so let's try 125. That's too low. So I know that the value has to be between 126 and 249. Well, let's try about 200. That's too high. All right, so I know that it's got to be basically between 150 and 200. Let's try 175. That's too low. How about 180? That's too low. How about 185? That's too low. How about 190? That's too low. How about 195? How about 193? That's too low. 195. That's too low. 198. That's too high. 197. There, I got it, and it took 12 guesses. All right, the only other thing I wanted to show you here is if I do this and I put in something that's invalid, all right, all guesses must be numeric and between 1 and 10. Please try again. And if I put in something out of range, so let's say that 111, because it has to be between 1 and 10, I get the same message. Must be numeric and between 1 and 10. Please try again. All right, so that's now working. Now the next one that I'm going to do for you, so we've gone through here, and I'm going to put all these out there as I've been doing. All right. I tried doing a bunch of stuff here, trying to get it to work before. So, all right, so we've got our first payroll, we've got our second payroll, and we've got our guessing game. Plus earlier, if you remember, we had done just a simple Hello World program. All right, so let's do a file save. Let's close this. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder called BMI GUI. It's going to be a body mass index program, but it's going to be GUI. So let's change the name of this to guessing game GUI. All right, so we've now got this. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to go and do this BMI program. Now, before I do this, let's bring up the one that we did before. Remember, BMI is body mass index. And I'm going to bring up the one that I had done myself earlier. So there's BMI and payroll. So it's BMI. So let's open this one. And again, what I think I'll do is I think I'll grab the comment at the beginning. All right. And well, this is actually it, I think. I think I'm showing you the completed version that I had. All right, so we'll just grab this. So let me copy that, and let's run the program. Input a height between 12 and 96, so 72. Input a weight, 166. And the person is of optimal weight. Run it again, yes. And 72 and 111. They're underweight. Run it again, yes. Let's say 72 and 222. They're obese. Run it again, yes. 72 and 200. They're overweight. Run it again, no. Now notice I have one underweight person, one overweight person, one optimal weight person, one obese weight person. All right. So what I'm going to do, like I said, is I grab that. So let me close this. Close this. And bring this up. So in here, and I've just been calling all of these main. All right. In fact, we're going to have a class in here, but I'm still going to just do it like this. All right. I'm going to have in here. Yeah, I'll just put everything in main. That's fine. So we'll say main.py. And again, let's just bring this in here. Now I'm going to close this, and I want to show you this. So let's see. So write a Python, let's say, GUI TKinter program to calculate and display a person's body mass index, or BMI. As it says, BMI is used to determine if a person is underweight, optimal weight, or obese for their height, using the formula that you see here below. That formula, as you can see, is weight times 703 divided by height squared. The weight will be inputted in pounds, and I arbitrarily came up with a minimum weight of 1 pound and a maximum weight of 777 pounds. Height is inputted in inches. I came up and arbitrarily said the minimum height will be 12, the maximum height will be 96, all right, for 8 feet. For valid input, the program should calculate and display the body mass index and a message indicating whether the person is underweight, of optimal weight, overweight, or obese for their height, using these metrics. So if you've got a BMI that's less than 18.5, you're considered to be underweight. If you've got a body weight that's greater than or equal to 18.5 but less than 25, you're considered normal or of optimal weight. If you have a BMI that is greater than or equal to 25 but less than 30, you're considered to be overweight. And if you have a BMI over 30 or above, you're considered obese. As it says, we'll use constants. All right. We also want to make sure that there's a valid height put in between 12 and 96, or we get an error message. As it says, these were arbitrary values I came up with. Same with the weight, where the minimum weight is 1 pound and the maximum is 777. Let the user run the program multiple times as desired. In addition, keep track of the total number of everything that's in here, basically. So the total number of underweight people, the total number of optimal weight people, the total number of overweight people, and the total number of obese weight people. And when the program's all done, we don't want to run it anymore, rather output all this. All right, so I'm going to continue on. I'm going to start again by importing TKinter as TK. And from TKinter, I am going to import the message box. All right. Now let's set up some constants. I'm going to have a minimum height, and that is going to be equal to 12. And again, this is inches. Now I'm going to move this over just like that. You'll see why in a moment. All right, so we've got a minimum height, so we'll also need a maximum height, and that'll be 96. We need a minimum weight, and that is going to be 1, and that's going to be in pounds. We need a maximum weight, and that is going to be 777. And I'm going to move all these over because I'm a little squirrely like this, and I like things to line up. So there's my minimum height, my maximum height, my minimum weight, my maximum weight. Also, I want to have something that I'm going to call min optimal. And that's going to be this. I have another one I'm going to call min over, and that's going to be this. Finally, I'm going to have one called min obese, and it's going to be that. Why? Because it'll make my program read a little bit easier. So min optimal, and that's going to be equal to 18.5. And that is literally, well, let's see. Again, I said I'm a little squirrely about this stuff, but I like stuff to line up. All right. So this is the minimum BMI for an optimal weight person. All right. And how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I don't need, I think I put an 8 here so I can get rid of that one. And I want to move that up to the top. All right. So that's the min optimal. I also want a min over, which is going to be 25.0. And that will say minimum BMI for an overweight person. Finally, we're going to have min obese. And that'll be 30.0. And that will be the minimum BMI for an obese person. Okay? In addition, those are constants. I'm going to also have a bunch of accumulators. I already told you what those would be. So I'll put down here accumulators. And there'll be 4 of them. There'll be total underweight. And we'll set that equal to 0. Total optimal weight. And we'll set that equal to 0. Total overweight. That'll be equal to 0. And total obese. And that will be equal to 0. Now, hopefully, I'm using names that are good enough that since I'm not putting a plethora, you might say, of comments in here, you can understand what's going on. I mean, there are comments. There just aren't very many that I'm putting in here. I'm putting in a big one at the top so you know what we're trying to do. All right, but total underweight, if I put a comment here, it would say something like total underweight, number of underweight people. And I can put that there, but to me, it's being a little bit redundant. All right, so let's make a class here. We'll call this BMI app. Good enough. Put in the equivalent of our constructor, which will need self and it will need root. And we'll give it a title of BMI calculator. Good enough. Let's, we're going to set the widgets, which in this case are going to be labels and labels, entry fields, and buttons for the application. right, so TK dot label root. The text will be equal to height, and we'll even say they're in inches. And then we'll place it. So dot grid, the row is going to be equal to 0. The column is going to be equal to 0. You can't put spaces in here, but I might as well. Usually when you see it, they don't have any in there. So the row is 0. The column is 0. We'll put some padding in here. We'll give some X padding. We'll set that equal to 5. And Y padding we'll set equal to 5. And sticky, which I still have to go over with you, we'll set equal to E. Okay. Oops. I did that, but how about we'll do this? We'll say LBL height equal that. All right. Self dot, and this is the entry field for the height. And that'll be a TK dot entry field that's associated with a root. And self dot EF height dot grid. So we're going to place it now. So the row is going to be equal to 0. The column is going to be equal to 1, because if we had it equal to 0, it would overwrite what was there. So we'll put some padding, pad X equal 5 and pad Y equal 5. All right. Now the next thing I want to do is basically repeat this. All right. But what I want is I want this to be changed to weight. So that'll be weight, and that'll be in LBS for pounds, and that will be in row 1, and that'll be EF weight here and here, and that'll be in row 1, column 1. All right, and I didn't pack these. I don't know why, but let's just look, and we're going to see if this works or not. All right, so we have our height. So first here, we're going to have our height, height, label, and entry field. And then we're going to have our weight, label, and entry field. And finally, we're going to come down here. We're going to have our buttons. All right, and we're going to have 2 of them. Again, I'm not worried right now about exit and whatever. We can put that in. But for now, I'm going to have just a calculate BMI button and a show totals button. Now, I might get an error on that. I don't know, just because I haven't written it yet. And that will be in row 2, column 0. All right. And we're going to make this a little bigger, so I'm going to put in here a column span of 2 and a y padding equal to pad y equal 10. Okay. And the next button's not going to be that different, so I'm going to copy this. So this one is going to be show totals. And the command it's going to call is not going to be calculate BMI. It'll call it what it is, show totals. And this will be in row 3, column 0. Again, it'll have a column span of 2, etc. All right. Now we've got to write calculate BMI. All right, so right now we don't have that. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do a def calculate BMI. It'll need self. For now, I'm just going to put a pass in there. And we'll need another one to be determine BMI status, and that'll need self, and it'll also need the BMI, which we haven't done yet, but again, we'll do a pass for that. All right. Finally, we'll need something for showing the totals. And we'll do a pass for that. Now, we're going to write all these in just a moment. All right. So I'm going to come down here, and this is going to be for the main program. We're going to say root equals tk.tk. Let's make this, again, about 500 by 500. So we'll do a root.geometry. We'll say app equals, what do we call this? I think it was just BMI app. Root and root.main loop. Now I'm thinking, because I didn't pack all this stuff, I'm going to have problems trying to get it to show on screen, but let's see. Oh, I'm wrong. So there's my height in inches. There's my weight in pounds. There's my calculate, and there's my totals. All right, it looks like for the width, it only needs to be about half that width. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the width on this from 500 to 300. See if that looks a little nicer. Okay, it's a little, maybe it's a little crunchy, but you know, I think you can all see it okay. All right, so let's go and write these. All right, let's do them backwards like we did it before. So here, I'm going to say global, and I need my counters because those are my totals. So total underweight, total optimal weight, total overweight, and total obese. Okay? And we'll just say, we'll call this totals. I'm going to put this over 4 lines. So I'm going to say here, total underweight. And we will put in there total underweight. All right. And then we'll put a \n. Like that. And then I'm going to put another F string in here. In fact, let's just copy this and we'll modify it accordingly. won't need this backslash n after the last one. All right, so I've got total underweight. This will be total optimal weight. This will be total overweight. And this will be total obese. All right, that's probably the easiest one, which is why I guess I tackled it first. And we don't have to do this, but I am going to line this stuff up. So when we click that totals button, it should have a title on it called totals, and it should show us these four totals. The total number of underweight people, the total number of optimal weight people, the total number of overweight people, and the total number of obese people. Should make sense, right? All right. The next thing we're going to do in here is to determine the status. This is pretty simple. It really is. Okay. Now, again, we need this same line in here because this is where we are going to be setting these. All right. Let's hit enter here. All right. So I'm going to say if BMI is less than min optimal, which means, again, the BMI, how about this, calculated BMI is less than 18.5. So if that's the case, we will say total underweight plus equal 1. So we're going to increment that counter. All right. And we will return underweight. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to make my life easier on myself by doing this. All right. Don't worry about what I just did because I'm going to have to be fixing it now anyway. If it's less than this, okay, it's underweight. If it's less than min over, then the calculated BMI is greater than or equal to 18.5 and less than 25.0. So we will increment the optimal weight counter. And we will return optimal weight. All right. If it's less than min obese, that means that the calculated BMI is greater than or equal to 25.0 and less than 30.0. So we will increment the total overweight counter and we will return overweight. All right. So if this will have to be an elif, of course, as will this. Okay. And if this, elif, this will be an else. And if that's the case, the calculated BMI is greater than or equal to 30.0. Now, I'm looking at this one. I don't need this. I've got an extra one in here. So, if the BMI is less than 18.5, you add 1 to the underweight counter and you return the word underweight. Otherwise, if it's less than, so if it gets down to here, it's at least 18.5. If it's less than 25, then it's between 18.5 and less than 25. So you increment the optimal weight counter and you return optimal weight. If you get down to here, all right, the BMI is at least 25. So if it's greater than or equal to 25 but less than 30, you increment the total overweight counter and you return overweight. Finally, otherwise, it's 30 or above, so you increment the total obese counter and you say total obese is plus equal 1. Finally, you return total, or just return obese. All right? Now, I'm not doing it backwards to confuse anybody. I'm just trying to show you, all right, as we back up, what we're doing in here. So now we have to actually calculate the BMI. And this ain't bad. All right? Now, I'm supposing that we're putting in whole numbers, integers, for the height and for the weight. So I'm going to put a try in here, which means eventually I'm going to have an accept, and that accept will be a value error. And if we get an exception, I'll just say message box dot show error. And we'll say invalid input, and we will add to that then whatever they return. So we'll put it in a string format. There. All right. So in here, we'll set height equal to int self dot ef height dot get, and weight will be the same thing. We'll just replace that h in height with a w for weight. All right. Now, we can write this like we did before, but there is a little bit of a trick, and I've shown it before, that you can use in Python. So I'm going to write that. I'm going to say if not min height less than or equal to height less than or equal to max height. All right. So if it's not within range, so this is a range check. Height, range check. Again, must be between 12 and 96. And the 12 is min height, and the 96 is max height. So if that's the case, we will raise a value error, and it will say let's make it an F string, and we'll say height must be between, and again, we'll say here min height and max height. All right. And if we want, we don't have to, but I can put on the end here inches. All right. Now, let's copy this, because what we want to do next is almost the same. But now we're going to say if not min weight less than or equal to weight less than or equal to max weight, will raise a value error that says the weight must be between the minimum weight and the maximum weight pounds. All right. So if we get down to here, so this will be a weight range check. Again, must be between 1 and 777. All right, so if we get down to here, all right, so in this case, height and weight inputs are both valid. So calculate BMI using formula above. And I've actually got it up here. There it is. Now there's different ways that you can write this, just so you know. All right, I'm doing it what I consider to be the best way. Could I be wrong? Sure. All right, so there's that. And then the BMI status is going to be equal to self.determine BMI status, and we have to pass the BMI into that. All right. Finally, we'll put in a message box dot show info, and it'll have current BMI stats, whatever you want. You put whatever you want in there, whatever. And we'll put in here, let's make this an F string. BMI. And we will round this to 2 decimal places because it'll look nicer. You wouldn't want a BMI where it said something like, that's got to be a little b. You wouldn't want something where it'd be like 15.87354. All right, it just, that looks ugly. All right, so we've got this. And we will round our BMI to, again, to 2 decimal places. And then on the next line, so \n, we will put in the status. And that is the BMI status. Okay. Now it doesn't like something here. Current BMI stats, that's good. F. It's because that should be a double quote. There we go. There. All right. Believe it or not, I've written all the code. I think I'm going to have a problem, though. I didn't pack anything. And I'm trying to remember if I ran this under my copy or not. Let's check, though. And let's run it. Oh, there it is. 72 inches and 166 pounds. Calculate the BMI. Oh, it did it. 22.51 in their optimal weight. Good. If they were 111 pounds, they were underweight. If they were 199 pounds, they're now overweight. And if they're 333 pounds, they're now obese. Now, if I click Show Totals, it should show us one for each one. There we are. All right. And again, as I mentioned to you, you're getting copies of all this stuff. So I now have written, hopefully successfully. All right. We had that Hello World program, and I can grab that if I need to. All right. I've got it someplace. All right. But we've now got, after Hello World, we wrote a payroll GUI 1, which was simplistic. Then a payroll GUI 2, which was a little bit more advanced, had counters and accumulators, etc. in it. Then we redid our guessing game. Now we've redone the BMI program. So between this and the last one, the first one, I should say, the Hello World one that we've now done 5 programs. All right. What I want to do next is this is going to be now a little bit different. The first thing that I want to do in just a couple minutes is I want to come in here and I want to take the last calculator program that we did, which was calculator3.py, it looks like. So this last one, let's bring that up. And again, I will, yeah. All right, I'm going to run this, and it's pretty simple. So enter first value 34. All right, enter second value 26. And it adds, subtracts, multiplies, divides. Does an integer divide, modulo, and does a power. So it goes through 7 different operations. I want to redo this, and I want to redo it as a GUI program using, again, TKinter. All right, so let's see. I'm not going to grab any of these comments. I think I do have an earlier one, though, an earlier copy of this. I'm looking, at least. I'm going to try to look for that. Yeah, I don't want that either. I want the original calculator. I thought I had an original one, so let's back up again. Calculator 01.py, could that be it? All right, I don't have a heck of a lot of comments in any of these. So I'll just write my own, I guess. All right, so I will be back in a couple minutes, and when I do come back, I am going to write this calculator program. Then, when I get done, just so you're aware of this, what I plan on doing at least, and I've got the code for it, and I'll give you the code for it, but I'm going to do something that isn't mine. I'm going to go out, and I found this online, Learn Python by Creating a Calculator. And I'm going to go through this article, and I'm going to put in their code, and we're going to have something that looks like this. The only thing I don't like about what they have is they have the 4 basic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. All right, and they have a square root, but they don't have anything here. So we might see if we can add something there, memory or something else. I don't know. But as it says, this will be a basic calculator that's developed using Python and TKinter. It isn't mine. I'm not claiming that it is. In fact, I'll give you the URL for this, and anybody can look at this. It's under Medium, but since it doesn't say members only, if I give you this URL, anybody should be able to get to it. All right? So like I said, when I come back in just a few minutes, the next thing I plan on doing then is to come back and rewrite the original, or the calculator that I did. So I'll see you with that soon.